this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I'm showing you the Chic Dies set, and yes, it makes a really amazing design. This set comes with the 5x5 frame piece, or frame die I should say, and it comes with 3 filler pieces for the middle, die for each corner, and there's also this little die to fill in the edges. So I'm going to show you a few photos here to give you an idea of how you can fill each section. So of course the middle is good for your portraits of people. So you could have 4 different photos of people close up and just show their faces. Mine are a little bit further away. For the corner, I'm using some pictures of foliage around the savannah area. That makes it a lot easier. And for the edges, I'm using this stone wall that looks really neat. You could also use pattern paper if you don't have any photos like that. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, first I need to cut the frame piece. Today I'm using the Sizzix Big Shot die machine. You will need a piece of paper that's a little bit bigger than the die itself. I usually use a pair of scissors to cut around the die. And this is a very big die. It will just fit into the die machine unless you have a really big die machine. And I try to put it in at an angle as much as possible to help with the pressure when you're cutting it through the machine. It is tougher to get it through when you have these bigger dies. I have to really crank it, so if you have trouble with that, I'm just letting you know to prepare for that. Next, after cutting it, I'm just going to take out all the filler pieces. You could save it for another time. I usually just discard them. And you just need to keep the frame piece for now. You'll cut this die 4 times to fill your layout. So here is the piece, and it looks really good. After you cut your frame pieces, the next step is to cut out all the fillers. So I'm just starting off with the center sections first, and the trick here is you have to make sure it's a diamond, a rounded diamond shape, you can say, and you just want to make sure it's not going to look crooked, so take care. This cut looks really good, but some people accidentally will cut it a little bit crooked. So just take your time and make sure that it doesn't look crooked. The top and bottom should look straight from each other. If you need to, use some washi tape to make sure the die does not shift in the machine. So yeah, just take your time. Again, it can be kind of easy to accidentally cut your photos a little bit more sideways if you're not careful. So that's something to take care here. If you're really worried about it, you could cut these with the bigger die, especially as a beginner, if that's helpful. You just may have to trim your photo a little bit to make sure the die and photo go through the machine. All right, but overall, it's a very easy die to use, very straightforward. Next, I'm just going to show you really quick how I get these corner pieces. You can do it all in one photo. This one's a bit easier because you can see it's mainly a photo of flowers, so I recommend for your first time especially using a photo like this. That's very easy to blend, and each piece is going to be separate, so if it's a little bit off or crooked, no one's going to tell usually. So I had the die in the top left corner, and I'm getting it as close as possible to the right corner. It's a little bit underneath where the last cut was. So mainly I'm showing you this so you know how you can get it all in one cut. Or you can get 4 of the cuts, in one photo, so you don't have to print more than 1 for each section. So you need at least 1 photo for each section. So 4 decorative photos all together. The next one I have it right below where the first cut was, or at least for now. I might change it up. I'm trying to figure it out. So I think I'm going to just go in the bottom right corner. I kind of forgot too that So just remember the top two corners, the triangles are pointed up, and then on the bottom they're pointed down. So remember that direction at least. For the top they're pointed up, for the bottom they're pointed down. So I had it pointed down in the bottom right corner there, and now I'm going to have it pointed down right where I have it now. So as you can see, you can fit it in one photograph, and while you're making this page, you can come back here to take a look at how I cut it in case, you might get confused and be like, I don't remember how she did it. So come back here and watch this video whenever you make your own layout. All right, now I'm going to cut with the tiny little triangle piece that fills out the edges, and you can use pattern paper or cardstock if you don't have a photo like I do. And you can actually cut enough triangles to fill in 2 of the Chic die frames. So you can just copy what I do here if you're using a little 4x6 photo. So I have it on top, and I had the triangle facing down. So it's going to go on the top portion of the Chic die, and now I have it on the left side of the photo. It looks like the bottom from here, but it's the left side of the photo for me. And all right, so I have it there, and then I'm going to put it on the opposite side. And just take your time. You want to make sure there's room for the bottom cut. So I put it fairly close to the edge of the photo on the sides here, and on the top you can see I had it fairly close to the top of the photo. All right, now I'm going to put it down on the bottom with the triangle facing up, and I'm trying to figure out where I can squeeze it in. So wherever you can squeeze it in, it'll work. All right, so I found a spot where I can cut it. So as you can see, I was able to get 4 of these little pieces in, and this is enough to fill in 1 Chic section. And so I have plenty of space to cut enough for 2. Maybe you can take on the challenge and figure out how to cut out more than 2, but I guess it depended. If you had a photo where it didn't matter which way you cut, you probably could cut out more, possibly. But basically, I'm going to cut it in the same directions as I did in the top half of the photo. And I'm going to repeat this for a second photo, and I forgot to mention before with the little corner sections, I'm going to cut 4 photos all together that fill in all the Chic dies. Alrighty, so I have all those little pieces ready to go. Once everything is cut, the next step is to glue down all the pieces. So I'm first going to put down the big frames. And I'm using the Herma Dotto dispenser. We really like this repositionable glue. To me, it's the best repositionable glue out there. Really, nothing else works as good. So if you have recommendations for glue, let us know. Sometimes it can be really difficult to get a hold of this glue. All right, so I'm getting a little bit of each section here. I get all the corners and in the middle of each edge. So everyone has a different way of gluing down. I just love using the Herma Dotto glue. And so I just pat down the glue in different spots, and it does hold really well, so I don't have to cover the entire frame. So you only really need a little bit of glue. Just getting rid of all the sticky parts. And I do recommend always having a handy sheet of cardstock or another paper so you don't get glue on your table or even on your photos if they were already glued down. All right, so I'm going to first place the first Chic die in the corner here. It makes it easier to know where to line the rest of them up. And they're going to fill up the entire layout. So that's the nice thing about these dies is the whole design is figured out for you. You don't have to figure out filling the rest of the layout. That's what's nice about these 5x5 dies. So again, once you put in that left corner, it's easier to figure out where to place the rest of them. And in the end, it'll give you this really cool design. And for a level 3 specialty die, these dies are actually pretty sturdy, I think, because the the design goes through the center of the die, so I did not feel like I needed a base piece like I've shown in other videos. But if needed, if you need some extra help, you can cut a base piece with the 5x5 die in the Set A die set as for your background. But again, I felt like these dies were pretty sturdy. So now I'm filling in each center, and again, it's a good space to put in those portrait photos so you know who was there on the trip. But this die, obviously, when you're filling in the rest of it, it's great to show those details from a trip or an event. So I definitely recommend for any of these kind of photos, look up, look down, look all around for different details you can take photos of. You never know when you're going to use them on a scrapbook page. You may never use them in some cases, but you just never know. So we'd like to take more photos than less photos, that's for sure. All right, now I have my 4 photos in, the main subjects you can say, and now I'm going to add in my corner pieces. So I did not show this photo earlier, but this is one of those, I don't even know what they're called. They're those trees that are down in the south that are just really pretty. And I just glued it down with my Re-positionable glue. And I do find with these kind of especially smaller pieces of die cuts, I'm going to bring back my cardstock here so I don't get glue on my photos on the layout. It's really important to get each corner. I find that if you don't glue them down very well, the corners might start sticking up, and you will probably put in a scrapbook album and they'll be protected and okay. But for me, I don't. Sometimes they stick up and it bothers me. So get those corners glued down really well. And for all the photos, all these corner photos, including this one I'm gluing down, I used the same method as I showed you, where I put in, put the left corner in the left corner of the photo and then kind of just figured out from there where to cut the photo. That one was of a tree, so I definitely made sure that my little corner pieces were cutting in the correct directions to fill in my space. This is a photo of a plant. I don't know what kind of plant it is, but there was a picture of it from Savannah and decided to add it in. Each section is going to show different plants. So that's what I like about the chic design, is that each little section can be framed by something different, and it's a fun way to show details from a trip or event you went to. So here I have these flowers. You can see a little bit of a palm tree trunk as well. So it's really nice. Again, make sure when you're out and about to take photos of all those details. Even if you're at home, you can, if you have little flowers or garden outside, grass, you can take photos of that, the trees around your home. So make sure you get all these detailed photos. This is what makes the Mosaic Moments layouts, really. I mean, this is the eye-catching thing. The designs are amazing too. The design, the dies themselves and the whole system is great, but this is the number one thing I would say is taking pictures of these photos. That is what's going to make your page from ordinary to awesome. So take a look around, look for these kind of photos. Right now I'm gluing down the little triangle pieces that'll fill in the rest of the chic die frames. Again, if you didn't have a photo like I did, you can use cardstock or pattern paper. It's a pretty small piece. And again, it's especially important on these pieces to make sure you get those corners. These are the ones that, these ones with the very sharp edges, they tend to be the worst about sticking up if you don't get them glued down. So use plenty of glue. And I do find if you don't have the Herma brand, I feel like you don't need to use as much of it. But if you have another brand of repositionable glue, definitely make sure you add more glue. I think that's one of the biggest issues is they don't tend to be the other brands don't seem to be as permanent for some reason as the Herma, and that's been our biggest issue is finding one that stays permanent. So if you are using another brand, you definitely want to cover up more of these dies to make sure that these little pieces especially stay on your layout. With other brands, the bigger pieces tend to stay on okay. It's the smaller pieces that will fall off months later. So anyway, that's why I recommend the Herma brand, because I feel like we've had pages made with this brand that are at 20 years old now, and they've held up really well. So I prefer this brand. All right, I'm getting this filled in. And I really like the stone look. It's very different from the foliage, the flowers and plants, so I definitely would do something that's contrasting. And also solid cardstock would have worked as well, but I really wanted to show this really neat stone. All right, I'm almost done here, and again, I'm making sure I get all the little corners as best I can and sticking them down in each section as good as possible. All right, this is the finished layout, and I really love this design. It looks so good. The chic die is pretty easy to use. Like I said, you just mainly need 4 photos that'll fit in that centerpiece, and the rest of it is more about showing the details, or if you have fun pattern paper, you can use that. In each of the corners, you could probably put in some journaling if you want to fit that in. So this is an awesome die. I highly recommend it. I hope you guys try it out. Anyway, if you enjoyed this demo, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments below. All right, I hope you guys have fun with the chic dies when you get a chance, and I will see you next time.